Good morning. This is our daily tarot. We have 3 major arcanas today, so it does appear that we're working through some stuff. I myself was kept up quite a lot this last couple of days with the full moon, which didn't really surprise me, I guess, because the full moon was in a place in Leo where it was actually transiting my natal moon. So a lot has been stirring in me, and I assume that there's a lot that is stirring in a lot of other people as well. So let's go ahead and jump into today's tarot. The opening card that we have is the Charioteer. The challenge that we're facing today is the Devil. The way we're going to get through the challenge is the Magician, and the ultimate outcome that came in for today was the Four of Wands upside down. So let's go ahead and go through these. Now, again, if there's major arcanas, they are putting life lessons in our face that we don't really get any choice about. It's not like you can just kind of ignore it and it will go away. So they show us where we have work to do and what we're working with, rather than the minor arcanas in comparison that are more day-to-day events that are passing and quickly moving. These are life lessons. So we don't really get choice over these. The opening card of the Charioteer. So this is a card that is governed by the moon. We just had a full moon and we are still feeling the effects of it. And this is a card that is bringing us to the idea of like, what does it mean to allow our life path or our spirit to guide our own nature? Now, in this card, we have these 2 creatures that are in the foreground that are Sphinx, and they don't have any kind of collars or reins on them, and yet they, in looking at this picture, they guide this carriage that this person is in, and he's heavily armored, and he's leaving his comfortable surroundings, right? He's leaving this city, and he's going out into the world. Now, what is it that calls us out of our comfortable environment, and what can we see when we're there? Why do we go there? Now, as I said, this card is governed by the moon, and we see a lot more when we have a full moon and things are revealed, which I shared a story about yesterday. And this is telling of these 2 creatures. Now, if you imagine yourself that you have these 2 aspects of your nature, and one can pull you down one road and one can pull you down the other road, how do you get them to actually work together so that you can move in the direction that you want? You have to be able to pull in the reins. And this brings up the idea of how we can have awareness of our mind and our emotions, and how we can pull in the reins in our own life so that we can actually have more control over our own direction in life and ultimately be guided by our higher selves. Now, the challenge that we have for the day is the Devil card. And this card has come up, actually both of these cards have come up in the last couple of days, which is quite telling to me. But we do have a lot of energy in the sign of Capricorn, which this card governs. And the Devil card is all about this energy of being like the source of our own limitations, and that we are the source of our own limitations by where we put our energy and where we put our mind and what we fixate on. And this idea of limitation is actually something that we choose by our own cyclical nature because we feel bound to some kind of situation that is outside of our control. Yet, if you look at these 2 people in this card, they both have these chains around their neck, and they're loose enough that they could remove their chains off of their neck. And so this is telling of this sense of we have the ability to unbound ourselves by removing the chain off our neck, but we feel like we don't have any control over it. And that's just a play on your own perspective, because that's not true. And so it can be telling that we feel really limited in how we are seeing things. And that limitation is ultimately what prevents us from moving toward what we feel called to move toward. So that can be a pretty big energy. And considering that, we've had, so this all started, right? This is really interesting. This all started in 2020, January 12th, 2020. We had this major conjunction in Capricorn, which actually involved 5 planets. And it involved a lot of the farther reaching planets. So this is where we saw this like big gear shift in society, because it was all happening in the sign of Capricorn, which this card governs. And so we've been experiencing all of these movements over the last couple of years, and we feel really limited by the social structure and by our outside environments. And yet this is, it's reminding us that we create our reality. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I just imagine everything is wonderful and it will be. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, where do you put your energy every single day? Do you put it towards something practical? Do you put it towards something that brings you some kind of care? Do you interact with other people in an intentional way? Do you make eye contact with people? Do you, how do you engage? Because if you feel limited, you're never going to go out of your house, right? You're just like, the world is never going to be as good as it ever was, and so screw it. But we are here, right? We have one life to live. And considering that, if you look back historically, people have gone through a lot of crap, right? People have overcome so much hardship, and to just assume and expect that like our lifetime is just going to be graced without it because the powers that be are going to look out for us is absurd. It's truly absurd. And so how do you show up in your day given the situation that is here, right? How do you engage? How do you engage in your environment? And it brings us to the magician. The magician is the conduit. They can manifest what they need on this earth. And by manifest, I'm not talking again around like the woke concept of like, I put this idea out there and it will just magically come to me. Like, this is someone who has all the tools. They have, literally this beautiful wand in their hand. And then they also have this wand that's actually the element in the tarot system of the fire, and the cup, which is the element of water, and the sword, which is the element of air, and the pentacle, which is the element of earth. And all of these things also have a symbolic representation in us, being that the sword is the mind and how we speak, our truth, and the cups are our vessel of our body and our container of our emotions. The vessel of our emotions. The pentacles are the physical body of us and our belief systems. And then we also have the wands, which is our will and our fire. And so we have all of these tools. And how do you engage them, right? How do you use them? Don't forget that you have these tools, because if you feel limited and you just like ignore the fact that all your tools are sitting on the table, well, then you missed the mark, right? And this life is all about us showing up. Now, consider also that this card is an energy of self-sufficiency. And so if you're depending on someone else to make your life and your environment it's so stable in such a way that then that allows you to go out and create the world, then you're depending on other people. And this is actually more about self-sufficiency. So can you, do things that make you more self-sufficient? Can you learn a skill that makes you more self-sufficient? Can you learn how to grow food? Can you learn how to make food if you don't feel comfortable making food? Can you call a friend over and make food together so that you can get some kind of interaction and learning and learn how to use your tools? Now, the overall outcome that we had for today came through as the Four of Wands, upside down. Now, the Four of Wands right side up is this energy of rest and stability around our will and kind of creating this structure for our will. And yet this card is upside down. So it's reminding me that this is not a time to rest, okay? If you're sitting at your house, drumming your fingers, waiting for the next day for someone else to reveal where your freedom is or what you can do or cannot do, then, it's not time to rest. It's time to actually take action. And what can you do today, right? What can you get off your list today? What can you actually engage in that brings you more of this? Because it's up to us, right? We're in control of our little individual system. And if you feel like one of your own allies of the mind, body, or emotions, or your will is out of alignment, how can you bring it back into alignment? And you have all the tools, quite literally, you have all the tools to do it. And it may mean making yourself a meal. It may mean going on a walk. It may mean calling a friend. And if that person doesn't answer, calling another friend. It may mean walking down the street and just saying hello to a stranger. It may be a number of things that get us out of this idea of limitation, because that's all it really is an idea. And how we look at things, our perspective of our situation, our perspective of the world, and our perspective of possibility is ultimately what is going to shape everything that is to come. So I hope you realize how powerful you actually are, and that you do have all of the tools. And it comes down to how we think, how we talk about things, how we describe things, and our language is a powerful tool. This card is also related to Mercury. So consider, if you can have a couple steps back and observe yourself, if you feel this energy of limitation and it's like you really can't see beyond that dark veil or beyond this like scary thing, try looking at it from a different perspective, and maybe even look at things that you had happen in your life in the past that you saw with certainty one day, but actually shifted a couple days down the road or a year down the road, because you had perspective, you had range, you had a sense of detachment from being right there up in it. So how can we give that to other people? How can we give it to ourselves? Because I think ultimately how we see the world and how we talk about things is going to open up what we can actually do to get out of this sense of feeling so bound. I send you guys a good wish today, and I hope you are well. I suspect this moon is affecting all of us, and it's definitely sitting on me. So I send a good wish to you wherever you are. Do something nice for yourself today.